But the minister is not interested to see you. There is no connection, unfortunately. I would tell him the thing I mentioned. I said, leave people, let them be alone. They are not doing any harm to the environment. If they have, it's a pothole, not mud. It's not a big mine like gold mines and silver and copper and everything, And they are not poisoning the environment. It's just they need to make a living. That's why they are working this mine. Yes, very much so. Very much, yeah. And I love the business because of the surprising beauty of the gemstones. It's always surprising beauty. And of course, as I said before also, you meet interesting people in the trade. And also, that's why it's my passion. And it still is, and I hope it continues to be. Yeah, in Germany we have this thing. You have to start as an apprentice. That means you have to start with low payment, and it's a dual system. That means you go to school, and you work. You work and go to school, and it's a good combination. And Germany is very successful in doing this, not only in the stone industry, in other industries also, and also like in craftsmanship. You work half day and you go to school. And our people here, they go to school and then they 2 days a week and they work 3 days a week. And there is a future in it because, as I said before, because we have to give a service. And people, retail jewelers, they need a service because otherwise they cannot serve their customers' requirements. If a lady has the big drop and she wants to have a pair of earrings, they need the people. They need us. Yeah. I'm not in the diamond industry, but I can give you my personal opinion. I think in all these synthetic stones, this is not for the interview now, like Chilton emeralds, Chatham rubies, and things like that. They were selling in the beginning like hell, and everybody said, "Oh, that's a good item." But you know what happened? Thousands of companies they bought one stone to have it to have it for the equipment, for the refractometer and so on, and just as a measure stone or whatever it is, you see. And they bought these stones, and then the business was flat, no more. Like Jill said, nobody buys, or emerald, Chatham, rubies, nobody buys it. Only the people who need it for their labs to have a stone like this. And I know from people, we talk sometimes here, and I meet people in the diamond industry, they think it will not survive. But they put a lot of money in it, and I also don't like the impression man-made. It's synthetic. To me, it's synthetic. It's a synthetic stone, and it has to be set. That's my personal opinion. People have other opinions, and it might be an interesting thing for the industry. Because it's the same hardness, it's the same thing like a natural stone, but it's man-made. It's synthetic. But it will be a big item for the future, for the next few years. They have to change into the industrial diamonds. So they will always be able to make a living by selling industrial diamonds. For all the tools you need diamonds. We need diamonds for the sawing blades and so on. But for the big stones, have you been to the Swiss Gemological Association a few years ago in Zermatt?
No.
I'm not so sure. There were some also Americans, and there was a guy in America, from America. They spoke. There was a session, and they had 2-3 speakers on diamonds, and then there was a guy who said, "Okay, we can make now stones until 5 carats." And then there was a Russian. He was talking after him. He said, "We can make stones up to 25 carats." That was interesting. And there was no third for more, but that they can make any size you want. Yeah, but it's a danger because people they bought a lot of they paid a lot of money in the beginning to have it, and now it's probably 20% of the price, or even for certain things 10%. I started the first time we started actually going to Africa, to Nairobi, because we had with some friends, with 4 friends of us, we bought actually an aquamarine mine near Meru, Equator mine. And the mine was producing a nice dark material, not so big, not big stones in aquamarine, there was a request in the market for these things. And then later on we found out we could buy the stones cheaper in Brazil. The stolen stones we bought cheaper in Nairobi than we could produce them at the mine. This was one advantage, so we gave up the thing after a few years. And then I had with some friends, even with Julius Petsch, we had some mines together in Brazil. We lost money. But we tried it, we thought, okay, we have to see that we have more production here. And then we had another one in South Africa. I had one mine 30, 40 years ago, which rose quartz and beryl, I sold again. I did not lose money the first time. And then I had another mine in Namibia, and it was very promising in the beginning. And we could rent all the equipment. You don't have to buy the dumpers and things like that. You can rent this because of the other industries there. And we started, and it looked quite interesting because, there was a system we could trace. We could know where tourmalines are in the ground. And then there was a pocket, maybe like a football and so on, and they said, okay, let's try. And then it was dark, it was black, it was black-red and so on. No success, we gave up again. But we always tried because we had the feeling that we are responsible for a good resupply for our industry. But it's mining for me is an adventure, but always losing money. And look, you have to sit on mining is something like this, like Bridges, Campbell and so on, they did. We know you have to sit on the mine like a farmer on his ground. You have to be there. You cannot employ somebody to do the mining and so on. You have to be there every day, every night, which is also important. I think I was infected maybe by my father to do this, yeah. And then many people, in the beginning said, oh, aquamarine, when the blue topaz came up, everybody said, oh, aquamarine is going to die. I said, no, aquamarine will survive because it's a nice stone. There are people, they love this particular color. And we did very well also. We were sometimes lucky to buy even old stock from Santa Maria, and then we bought also the Santa Maria Africana. I like aquamarine, and we have customers, It's a daily bread for us, aquamarine. And blue topaz has not affected. The cheaper things, yes, but no, not the good stones. To me, Santa Maria. The old Santa Maria. Yeah, the deeper blue, but it should not be steel blue. It has to be sky blue. At a beautiful bright day, the sky blue, what you have in a blue, not today. But Battaglia mine was, for me, it was a lucky thing. I had a young American gemologist, and he knew this guy, Heitor Barbosa, the miner. And then he said, I cannot sell this, I need a better price because it's rare and it's difficult to mine and expensive to mine. Can you help me? And then he came here to Ida. And then he came Frankfurt and then by train to the train station, and then he walked down the Ida Oberstein, the Oberstein Valley with the little shops, And then he went into a shop and he said, I have this and this. And the woman said to him, oh, I don't know. This is not for me and much too expensive. But why don't you go to Karl Egon in these days? I still had Alexander, and they're not in my business. And then he came here, and then he showed us the stones, and then we said, oh my God, this price for this, like as I said, 400. And then I said to my people around me, they had never seen anything like this before, what shall we do? I think we help him, and we give him, we encourage him to keep on in this business. And it was Brian Cook, and we became friends. And I went to Hater Barbosa in the beginning, and we bought a lot of stones from him until they had these problems with the pistoleros there. But it was a good thing, and we did very well with this guy just by buying it to encourage him to keep on. But you can see every stone with us. The depth and the one, everything is perfect, and it talks to you. It should not be too fat, in the backside. It should not be windowish. Every stone has to be nice. Even this stone, you can measure the width and thickness and so on, and it fits into the line. He's so great. I also collect his stones privately, No, Manfred Wild, yeah, and from Emil Becker, and but unfortunately he has no successor. But he's so great, and to me he's a real artist. He tells me, Karl Egon, if I'm waking up at night and I have an idea, I have to draw. I have to start drawing, otherwise I don't fall asleep again. This is what it talks to him, and then he draws, even at 3 o'clock in the night.